और लोग कहते हैं यार तू गोदी मीडिया है, तू दरबारी है, तू कांग्रेसी है, तू भाजपा है।
पहले ये चीज़ नहीं होती थी, अब लोग कहते हैं ये न्यूज़ चैनल बीजेपी के, कांग्रेस के, जर्नलिस्ट, तो पहले जो लीडर्स पोलराइज करते थे, नाउ चैनल्स एंड जर्नलिस्ट हैव स्टार्टेड डूइंग दैट।
एंड आई थिंक वी आर पार्टली रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर आवर ओन डिक्लाइन एंड डिमाइस।
लूजर कोई भी उस इलेक्शन में, बट आई थिंक एक इंसान लूजर नहीं है।
You know, one of the stories of this election is Rahul Gandhi.
इवन दो अगर मिस्टर मोदी नहीं भी जीत पाया मेजॉरिटी, ही इज स्टिल द प्राइम मिनिस्टर।
Narendra Modi is a remarkable politician.
तो बिगेस्ट विनर आपके हिसाब से कौन है इस इलेक्शन का?
I'm not going to say Rahul Gandhi is Bangladesh because that will be another controversy. Rahul Gandhi has never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity.
जब इलेक्शंस हो रहे थे उसके पहले 6 महीने से एक आई डोंट नो मैं क्या कहूँ, पर प्रेडिक्शंस थे, नैरेटिव था कि इवन मीडिया में भी था, आम लोगों में भी था कि 400 सीट्स आएंगी। इवन 400 नहीं, पर पीपल वर प्रीटी कॉन्फिडेंट कि 300 प्लस बीजेपी इटसेल्फ इज विनिंग। तो तब आपको थोड़ा सा शक था, डाउट था कि नहीं ये चीज़ नहीं हो सकती है शायद?
I must be honest, मुझे आपको सच्चाई बतानी पड़ेगी कि मैंने जब ये बुक प्लान किया था करीब 1.5 साल पहले, तो पहला टाइटल था हैट्रिक, क्योंकि एक माहौल बन गया था कि आना तो मोदी को ही है, और वैसे भी मोदी जी आए हैं, लेकिन जैसे आपने कहा लगा कि 300 सीट आएंगे, भाजपा कह रही थी 400 सीटें, फिर राम मंदिर प्राण प्रतिष्ठा हुआ जनवरी में, और लोगों को लगा अब तो बीजेपी की लहर होगी, राम की लहर होगी। तो उस हिसाब से अगर आप देखें, इफ यू सी फ्रॉम दैट पर्सपेक्टिव, सर्टेनली a year ago at the start of the year, last year, there was a feeling that this election was a done deal. Whether it was pollsters, whether it was know-it-all पत्रकार, सबको लगा यार ये तो हो ही गया है। That is why the title of the book is Election That Surprised India. Because not only did it surprise perhaps the pollsters and the pundits, it also surprised the people. I think, it's a happy wake-up call, because it shows that in India nothing is predictable. That's why this is the most fascinating country in the world. आप दुनिया भर में जाओ ना, अमेरिकी इलेक्शन में 4-5 स्टेट्स पर निर्भर होता है who will win, whether Trump will win or Harris will win. Go to UK, it's almost a done deal. In India, nothing is a done deal in life and in politics.
So we have nothing like a swing state.
बिल्कुल, we have nothing like a swing state, and there's that old Hindi film song, और मैं हिंदी फिल्म सॉन्ग के बड़ा शौकीन हूँ। जिंदगी एक सफर है सुहाना, यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना। राजनीति में किसी को मालूम नहीं क्या होगा, जिंदगी में किसी को मालूम नहीं। So I think that's what makes, I think, this election and Indian democracy so fascinating. It's so unpredictable, and that's why from hat-trick a year ago the title changed to Election That Surprised India. I think that's why it's a fascinating journey and a story, because it's so roller coaster. Nothing, there are lots of unexpected twists and turns that I think make this just a interesting election to observe, and a remarkable election in so many ways, because it shows the strength of democracy. जो कहते हैं डेमोक्रेसी खतरे में है, चुनावी डेमोक्रेसी इस देश में खतरे में नहीं है। कई चीजें जो है जरूर खतरे में है, लेकिन चुनाव जब आते हैं ना, जनता डिसाइड करती है कि जनता जनार्दन है।
ओके, आपने जैसे इसका टाइटल भी है द इलेक्शंस दैट सरप्राइज इंडिया। सरप्राइज को कम करने के लिए पोल्स होते हैं, सर्वेज होते हैं, वी हैव द एजेंसीज, बट इस बार सबसे ज़्यादा अगर किसी को बचना पड़ा, वो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज तो अपना क्लेम करती हैं, कांग्रेस वॉज क्लेमिंग कि वो जीतेगी, बीजेपी वो अपना खुद का क्लेम कर रही थी, बट जिससे एक एक्चुअली मैं जिस तरह से कहूँ कि एक्यूरेटली, नॉट एक्यूरेटली बट एटलीस्ट अप्रॉक्सीमेटली सही प्रेडिक्ट करना था, वो नहीं कर पाए। आप क्लोजली काम करते हैं, आपके चैनल में भी आपने काफ़ी सालों से देखा है, इस बार इतना ज़्यादा गलत क्यों? क्योंकि यूजुअली दे गेट इट राइट, एक्सेप्ट इन 2004 इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग।
देखिए 2004 there weren't that many pollsters also, और इतने चैनल्स भी नहीं थे। 2004 में जब कांग्रेस जीती और वाजपेयी जी हारे थे, that time also pollsters did not predict Vajpayee ji's defeat.
Right.
But this time, almost uniformly, all the pollsters got it badly wrong. एक होता है यार 10 सीटें यहाँ वहाँ, लेकिन जब हर एक पोलस्टर आपको कहता है 300, 350, कोई 400 भी कह लेता है, एंड व्हेन द फाइनल मार्जिन इज बीजेपी 240 एंड द एनडीए 294, कांग्रेस डूइंग मच बेटर देन एक्सपेक्टेड, then I think pollsters also need to go back to the drawing board and ask themselves where did they go wrong. और मैं आपको कहानी बताऊं, I remember I came back from my travels around middle of May, और मैंने एक ब्लॉग लिखा था क्या बीजेपी 272 पार कर पाएगी? And actually that was what I was getting the feedback from the ground, that ये कोई one way traffic नहीं है. But the moment I met our pollsters, they said, यार राजदीप जी बिल्कुल it's one way. So suddenly even I said, yaar, maybe they are right, because they after all go across the country. Remember, we are a 97 crore electorate, 543 seats. मैं तो 10-12 states गया हूँ. I haven't gone to every constituency. So I also went by the pollsters. तो मैंने भी सोच लिया यार ये सब कह रहे हैं यही होगा. So I think pollsters in this country need to try and perhaps be a little bit more humble, like all of us. कि यार हम कोई भगवान नहीं है. ना नेता भगवान है इस देश में, ना पोलस्टर भगवान है, और पत्रकार तो 100% नहीं है. And I think if we were a little bit more humble and if we had listened to voices other than our own. See, हम लोग क्या कहते हैं, अपने WhatsApp ग्रुप में रहते हैं, अपने सोशल मीडिया ग्रुप में रहते हैं, अपने Instagram में रहते हैं. We are following people whom we like and we think they are the right person, but there are others also out there. So I think if we started listening to voices other than our own, दूसरों की भी आवाजें अगर हम सुने, तो I guess we could have been closer to the actual numbers.
Okay. So लूजर कोई भी उस इलेक्शन में, what I think एक इंसान लूजर नहीं है, that was राहुल गांधी, because उन्हें ऑलरेडी इट वॉज प्रेडिक्टेड कि अरे 2 इलेक्शंस में ऑलरेडी कुछ नहीं कर पाया, इस बार तो और पावरफुल है, गवर्नमेंट इज वर्किंग सो हार्ड एंड एवरीथिंग, एंड गवर्नमेंट जब रहती है तो उसके जीतने के चांसेस भी रहते हैं, बिकॉज ऑफ कोर्स थोड़ा एजेंसीज पे भी इफेक्ट रहता है, ओवरऑल एटमॉस्फेयर भी थोड़ा क्रिएट हो जाता है. बट ही वॉज ऑलमोस्ट लाइक उन्हें विनर माना गया, इवन दो ही दे हार्डली वन 100 सीट्स. तो मेरा जो चीज़ जानना है कि आखिर उन्होंने 2 इलेक्शंस से इस बार आपके अकॉर्डिंग क्या चेंज किया जो वो एक विनर की तरह उभर पाए?
You know, one of the stories of this election is Rahul Gandhi.
Right.
And I think one of the reasons is, जब आपके एक्सपेक्टेशन भी लो होते हैं ना, जब आप थोड़ा भी ऊपर आ जाते हैं, पीपल से अरे वाओ, यू नो इंडियन क्रिकेट टीम इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू विन, सो इवन इफ इट्स अ ड्रॉ वी से यार ड्रॉ हो गया. बट इफ यू वर लेट्स से न्यूजीलैंड या बांग्लादेश, you know, I'm not going to say Rahul Gandhi is Bangladesh because that will be another controversy. But you're absolutely right. In my first 2 books, I used to use a line, Rahul Gandhi has never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity. और लोग हंसते थे. Now, I think the fact is Rahul Gandhi, like it or not, has shown that यार हो सकता है लंबे रेस का घोड़ा हो. You know, one election doesn't mean that Rahul Gandhi has arrived, but he certainly has proved his critics wrong. And I think he's shown that he can be a marathon man. Potential hai. He certainly set the narrative of this election. And you ask what changed? I think the Bharat Jodo Yatra was an important step because it showed that Rahul Gandhi is willing to do what most politicians today don't do. Janta ke beech raho.
Right.
So he went to the people, did this long yatra, waking up at 5 a.m. every morning over a few months. I think that gave people a sense, people started re-looking at him. And then I think he was able to somehow set the agenda of the election. The issues he picked up, whether it was COVID, whether it was the Chinese incursion, whether it was caste, whether it was inflation, whether it was Agniveer. He was picking up issues and the BJP was being forced to respond to him. Samvidhan khatre mein hai, you know, which became a big sort of slogan of this election. So I think Rahul Gandhi has shown that we need to take a relook at him. As I said, I don't think you can say he has arrived because you arrive when you win. And he hasn't won yet. But I think he has shown that he cannot be written off. ये जो पप्पू बिप्पू जो बोलते थे, that doesn't work anymore. ये जो पप्पू का narrative है बिल्कुल नहीं चलता है. Rahul Gandhi needs to be seen with new eyes. And you know, in a strange way, 10 साल में देखो क्या फर्क हो गया. 2014 में हम कहते थे राहुल गांधी जो है वो तो नामदार है. मोदी जी was the anti-establishment hero. 2024, Mr. Modi is the establishment. And Rahul Gandhi almost becomes the anti-establishment hero. कि मैं सबको टक्कर दूंगा, अंबानी, अडानी, जो भी हो, you know, I want to write a new narrative. So you know, it's interesting how the narratives have changed in the last 10 years.
So we've talked about Rahul Gandhi. मैं दूसरी साइड की बात करना चाहूँगा. Getting a third term is not easy for any government, especially in a general election at the center.
Absolutely.
But even though अगर Mr. Modi नहीं भी जीत पाया majority, he is still the prime minister. And उनकी एटलीस्ट उनके उसको तो मेजॉरिटी मिली है एनडीए को. मोदी शाह की जोड़ी ऐसा क्या कर रही है दैट दे आर सक्सेसफुल? थर्ड इलेक्शन में भी काफी टफ था मुझे लगता है, भले ही लोग कितना ही कह रहे हो चांसेस, बट इट्स टफ टू विन.
Oh, absolutely. Narendra Modi is a remarkable politician. You cannot, he's a politician who's been in politics for 50 years. India may have only seen him in the last 10, 15 years, but I have been observing him since the late 80s, early 90s. So he has come up from the grassroots, from Gujarat all the way to Delhi. Or, it's like someone who has experienced life over 50 years. And thereby he knows how to be flexible, kab adjust karna hai, kya karna hai. And I think that's his strength. Because of your experience, you're able to draw on it all the time. And he's a very, very effective communicator. He knows kab kya kehna hai, more often than not. Like every leader, he may make the odd mistake. But I think his, therefore, personality and his qualities matched with Amit Shah's hunger कि कुछ भी हो चुनाव जीतना है. देखिए उसकी नेगेटिव भी है क्योंकि उसमें आप ऐसी भी चीजें करते हो which people will say यार ये क्या कर दिया आपने. But it also means that you are desperate enough to win. So I think Team Modi-Shah, because they've been around for so long, उन्होंने अपना पहला इलेक्शन साथ में 1980s में म्यूनिसिपल इलेक्शन अहमदाबाद में लड़ा था. वो पोस्टर लगाते थे दीवारों पर. वहां से आए हैं स्कूटर पर जाते हुए. सो व्हेन यू कम थ्रू दैट 40 years grind in any profession, it makes you more determined. I think it makes you more resourceful in some ways, and it increases your life experience. So I think that let's be honest, and I say this controversially, there was no level playing field in this election. कांग्रेस के इनकम टैक्स के अकाउंट्स फ्रीज किए गए थे चुनाव के पहले. कांग्रेस didn't have the resources that the government had. There was pressure ki ED was seen as this 12th man of this election. Election commission par bhi sawal उठ रहे थे. So you could argue that despite all of this, the Congress did remarkably well. On the other hand, you could argue that even after 10 years in power, the BJP was still able to defeat anti-incumbency. And across the world, you see it's not easy to win 3 consecutive elections in a country like India, which is so diverse, is not easy. So you've got to also give credit to Modi Shah. So in a way, no one lost this election. No one won it either. I think each voter ने सबको थोड़ा नीचे भी किया, थोड़ा ऊपर भी किया.
They've humbled everyone.
I think they've humbled everyone. You could argue that they've humbled the ruling party more because the ruling party went into this election saying 400 paar. You see, when you go saying I'm going to scale Mount Everest and you end up at Sahyadri, people will ask questions. When people say यार तुम सह्याद्री भी नहीं पार कर पाओगे and कम से कम तुम you read Kanchenjunga, people say not bad. So it depends on how you look at this election. The real winner of this election is the voter. Voter has won the election. The diversity of India, what I call the diversity dividend, has shone through. That this is the most remarkable country in the world because it is so diverse. And unless you respect and appreciate the diversity of India, you will never understand India.
Right. So we have talked about कि वोटर ने humble किया गवर्नमेंट को भी एक तरह से. मैं एक चीज़ और इस चीज़ में कहूँगा कि because we know कि fight back करती है बीजेपी. And it's a big party, still is a big party. So इस इलेक्शन के बाद because they would have learned lessons. क्या आप देखते हैं कि 2029 में भी क्या ये लोग चैलेंज करेंगे? 2029 में की बात ना करें. Next election I'll say. 2029 is not the right word to use. But
no, whether
will they be able to make a comeback?
Look, 2029 5 साल तो बहुत दूर है. In India, and this book will show it. Right. Even 24 hours is a long time. मैंने एक कहानी बताई है कि मैं 11 बजे रात को छोड़ गया स्टूडियो कि उद्धव ठाकरे टू बी नेक्स्ट चीफ मिनिस्टर ऑफ महाराष्ट्र. ब्रेकिंग न्यूज. अगले दिन 7 बजे देवेंद्र फडणवीस वाज बीइंग स्वॉर्न इन द राजभवन. ही हैड टाइड अप विद अजीत पवार. ये इंडिया में ही हो सकता है. So I'm not going to look at 5 years. What is very clear, BJP kahin nahi ja rahi, and Congress is certainly becoming a stronger party than it was, say, 5 or 10 years ago. But Congress still has a long way to go. Their organization is still not good enough to match the BJP. They still need to actually show, particularly in state governments, that they can provide effective governance. But the real battle in India will now take place in the states. The states, one by one, will see closer, tighter contests, क्योंकि इलेक्शन बहुत लोकलाइज्ड हो जाएगा कि आपका एमएलए क्या करता है. people will start asking more questions of the MLA of local factors, and that's good. You know, we need more accountable politicians. हमारे पॉलिटिक्स में कोई जवाबदेही नहीं होती. थोड़ी जवाबदेही आ जाए ना, इनको थोड़ा बीच बीच में वोटर कहता है यार, आई रिमेम्बर समवन इन हरियाणा में जा रहा था, तो एक जाट किसान ने कहा मैंने पिछले चुनाव में बीजेपी को वोट दिया था, इस बार कांग्रेस को दे रहा हूँ. तो मैंने कहा आप बदल क्यों रहे? He said सर बदल अच्छा होता है, नहीं तो ये लोग दे टेक अस फॉर ग्रांटेड, उनको लगता है हम कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. तो I think every election in India will see different trends more and more because politics is very very competitive now. जम्मू एंड कश्मीर में भी देखिए कितने इंडिपेंडेंट्स खड़े रहते हैं. इंडियन इलेक्शंस आर बिकमिंग मच मोर competitive than they ever were.
You've talked about कि these elections were not so fair. I mean, of course, इलेक्शन में देखा कि लोग बदल सकते हैं if they want.
हाँ.
बट मैं एक चीज़ और जानना चाहूँगा because you are in that profession. पहले ये चीज़ नहीं होती थी. अब लोग कहते हैं ये न्यूज़ चैनल ना बीजेपी के, कांग्रेस के, जर्नलिस्ट. तो पहले जो लीडर्स पोलराइज करते थे, नाउ चैनल्स एंड जर्नलिस्ट हैव स्टार्टेड डूइंग दैट. ये चेंज कैसे है और इसको क्या रिवर्स करने का कोई तरीका है?
Superb question. I mean, I have a full. My last chapter of the book is on Godi media. क्योंकि मुझे अभी भी याद है कि किसानों का एजिटेशन चल रहा था और किसी ने मेरा कैमरा पुश करके कहा यू आर गोदी मीडिया. और मुझे थोड़ा मैं इतने सालों के बाद कोई मुझे गोदी मीडिया कह रहा है, फिर मैं आसानी से उनको जवाब नहीं दे पाया बिकॉज व्हाट दे सेड इन अ वे इज ट्रू. इसी जैसे समाज बढ़ गया है, नेता बढ़ गए, उस तरह से मीडिया और न्यूज़ रूम भी बढ़ गए हैं. और लोग कहते हैं यार तू गोदी मीडिया है, तू दरबारी है, तू कांग्रेसी है, तू भाजपा है. एंड आई थिंक वी आर पार्टली रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर आवर ओन डिक्लाइन एंड डिमाइस. क्योंकि हमने भी एक तरह से हम बड़े ओपिनियनेटेड बन गए. हम हर चीज़ पर अपनी वी वांट टू गिव आवर ओपिनियंस. नेचुरली देन पब्लिक विल आल्सो रिस्पॉन्ड. दिस इन एज ऑफ सोशल मीडिया दे आल्सो हैव देयर ओपिनियंस. बट I think there has been, whether we like it or not, unfortunately the media has not been fair.
Okay.
The media has tended to be completely aligned to those in power rather than telling truth to power. हमें तो जो ताकतवर है उसे सच्चाई बतानी है, कोई भी हो, फिर वो कांग्रेस हो, भाजपा हो. जब कांग्रेस की सरकार थी तो हमने, आपको याद होगा, इंडिया अगेंस्ट करप्शन, वी हैड रेज्ड several questions of the Congress government there. Eventually it led to the fall of that government. Have we done the same in the last 10 years? I don't think so. So I think we have to ask our question कि लोग हमें गोदी मीडिया आज क्यों कहते हैं. I can get angry about it, and it's like एक ज़माने during that India against corruption I used to get some netas got angry when they said अरे सब नेता चोर है. So एक नेता है, मैं चोर नहीं हूँ. I'm sacrificed my life to become a politician. Similarly, I think there are journalists who have made every effort to remain honest to their profession, and there are journalists who you could say have bartered their conscience. I don't think we should have blanket statements, but I think we all need थोड़ी आत्मचिंतन करने की जरूरत है सबको, मुझे भी, बाकियों को भी, कि हम इतने आसानी से क्यों
Do you think this is also a business strategy? Because एक तरह से channels तो entrepreneurs ही हैं वो, because they have segments, जैसे हमारे segments होते हैं, we target something, we know कि ये ideology इस side है, we have to target them.
Look,
ये reason हो सकता है?
नहीं, look, that could be a reason, but I think at the end of the day we should allow different opinions to flourish. I don't think just because you have a different opinion to mine you are anti-national, or you should not think क्योंकि मैं I have a different opinion to you I am anti-national.
Right.
A news channel should have space for all kinds of views, but one view is clear. You must be honest to the constitution of the country. Right. किसी ने मुझे पूछा what is your religion the other day, or what is your religious book, and I said my only book I believe is the Constitution of India. Now I don't want to read any religious books to understand what is my duty as a citizen. So similarly, news channels should have space for all kinds of views, but those views must conform to the constitution. There is no space for hate speech. आप अगर नफरत किसी समुदाय या किसी व्यक्ति के खिलाफ बढ़ाओगे, खास करके किसी जाति या समुदाय के खिलाफ, तो to my mind that is being anti-constitution, and that's where I draw the line as a media person.
Last two elections have been kind of presidential style of elections. Either you're voting for Mr. Modi, you're not voting for this, you're voting against him. Even when he was not the prime minister, वो election भी वही बन गया था. इस इलेक्शन में रिजल्ट्स थोड़े डिफरेंट आए हैं. यू सी कि अब थोड़ा पैटर्न चेंज हो सकता है. वी कैन कम बैक टू द पार्लियामेंट स्टाइल ऑफ voting and not just presidential style.
As I said, Indian elections should be celebrated for their diversity. Uh, this whole idea, one nation, one leader, can be attempted by a political party who has a charismatic leader. इंदिरा गांधी के टाइम पे कांग्रेस ने भी इसी तरह से चुनाव लड़े थे. भाजपा कर रही है अंडर मिस्टर मोदी. But I think Indian elections will have a mix of various agendas. There will be local agendas कि जैसे नॉर्दर्न महाराष्ट्र में था कि प्याज के दाम या एक्सपोर्ट रिस्ट्रिक्शंस क्यों है प्याज पर, वो बड़ा वहाँ मुद्दा बन गया था. संविधान became a मुद्दा in some parts of the country. Mr. Modi became a issue in other parts of the country. ऐसा नहीं है कि this election was not at some level presidential again. A lot of BJP voters voted for the BJP not because of the party but because of Mr. Modi. Right. So I think Indian elections are like a थाली. उस थाली में आपको अलग अलग चीज़ें मिलेगी. एक वोटर कहेगा नहीं मैं लोकल फैक्टर पर कर रहा हूँ, कोई कहेगा मैं मोदी के नाम पर कर रहा हूँ, कोई कहेगा मैं नोटा कर रहा हूँ. I don't like any of them. I was very interested there. Somebody said the other day, I was interviewing them in Haryana and I said, किसको वोट दोगे? सबसे कम बेईमान. So, voters have their own way of looking at every election. Right. There is no one size fits all in India. And I think that's what our politicians, our media, our pollsters all need to start respecting more. That don't go by one formula for every election. Ye presidential ho gaya, that's why next one also will be. Each election is very distinct to the other. Even in the same state, Delhi mein aap dekhiye, when it's a national election, Delhiites in the last few elections have voted for BJP. Right. But when it comes to the state election, they voted for Aam Aadmi Party. Same voter. ये कहीं और नहीं होता कि same voter votes so differently within a few months of each other in the same state. Right. So ये अद्भुत देश है. It's an extraordinary country. It's an extraordinary verdict, and that's why I think it's important to document it and write books on what happens in India during election time.
Okay. So of course you've said the biggest winner of this election was the public, for the voter. But अगर politically मैं पूछूं आपसे, तो biggest winner आपके हिसाब से कौन है इस election का? Biggest gainer you can say.
Biggest gainer, look, I think because of the nature of the election before, this kind of run up to the election where we were writing off the Congress more or less and everyone was saying BJP ke balle balle, I would say that certainly Rahul Gandhi is a winner. He has lived to tell the tale when everyone was writing him off. So he's definitely in that sense a winner. I think some of the regional parties which have shown resilience are winners. Then whether it's a Chandrababu Naidu, a Mamata Banerjee, and MK Stalin.
Even Akhilesh Yadav.
And Akhilesh Yadav certainly could classify as a winner. And in his own way, because he was re-elected a third time, while his moral and political authority may have got downsized, Mr. Modi is not going anywhere. Right. So I think each of them can hold on to something and sort of hope that classifies them as winners. But broadly speaking, I think the election gave the opposition more reason to cheer than the government. Opposition zinda hai. Democracy bhi zinda hai. At times we sort of fear for Indian democracy. Certainly institutions जिस तरह से capture होते हैं. But I would say the big picture, बड़ी तस्वीर जो आती है इस चुनाव से, वो ये है कि इस देश में vote never underestimate a voter's power, and maybe the voter wanted a stronger opposition, and he still wanted Mr. Modi, but a Mr. Modi who's perhaps more accountable both to his party, his allies, and to the people of the country and the opposition.
So this is my last question. What will be the title of your book coming in the next election? What do you think?
I have written a trilogy of this. 2014 was 2014 the election that changed India, because for the first time the BJP got a majority. 2019 was how Modi won India, because it was a huge victory, particularly on the back of Pulwama and Balakot. It became presidential, as you called it. 2024 election that surprised India because no one quite expected this verdict. 2029, यार इतने दूर मत देखो. You know, I don't know whether I have the energy 5 years from now. Uh, I just don't want to predict. You know, because otherwise people will look at this clip on social media and say, यार तूने तो 2024 में कहा था ये होगा, ये तो उसका विपरीत हुआ. Maybe I'll just write a book on cricket. How India became the #1 cricket team in the world. I wrote a book called Democracy's Level a few years ago. But maybe there's a book there because that's another great story. So politics के लिए थोड़ा pause button press करते हैं. I believe this election has put us in interval mode. Interval में आप popcorn खाते हो, आप बाहर जाते हो, you relax, you know, just get away from the darkness of a cinema hall. I think this election has done that because the last few years was so dramatic, so much happened. COVID, there were governments being toppled, farmers' agitation, all kinds of things happened in this country in the last 5 to 10 years. And I think voter ने भी decide किया थोड़ा pause, थोड़ा ठहराव करते हैं. Let me take a pause button and then I'll see what happens in 2029. You know, I think we all need at times a moment or two to relax. And therefore, I think all the political parties should take the message. I think one of the problems I have is the BJP with 240 seats sometimes thinks it's got 400. And the Congress with 99 seats sometimes thinks it's got 272. I think everybody has been humbled by the voter. अहंकार की हार हुई है और humility की, you know, to stay humble is a good quality to have in life and in politics.
All right, sir. आपसे बात करके बहुत अच्छा लगा and thanks a lot for giving us your time. And can't wait to read your book and your next book as well. And I'm hoping that it's on cricket. I'm a very big cricket fan.
Yeah. No, great. No. And I'll tell you one thing, just to conclude in this book, I hope people read these. You know, हम लोग, particularly younger generation, is very cynical about politics. As I said, सब नेता चोर है. There's one chapter that I have, Democracy Zinda has Stories of Hope. There are these 10 incredible people, some of whom didn't even have the money to fight an election, fought it and won. So there is still hope in this country और उम्मीद पे दुनिया कायम है. So I want to tell this to your generation in particular that hopefully you'll build a better India.